Hey there, this is Veena from Patter Cake, the channel that's about baking and much more. A warm welcome to my channel. I'm not sure how many of you have tasted Besan Burfi before, but this is one of those delicious Indian sweets or mithais that don't overwhelm you with their sweetness or come across as too rich or oily. Our Besan Burfi is made with just 4 main ingredients, not 3, as is usually the case. That's because we are going to make a healthy version of the Besan Burfi recipe. This mithai will stay good at room temperature for around 2 weeks. But take it from me, it won't last that long. It's that tasty. Today's Besan Burfi video also comes with a bunch of useful tips, so stay tuned till the end. And now, let's dive straight into making some tasty Besan Burfi right now at Patter Cake. Let's start by sifting 200 grams, that's 2 cups of besan or chickpea flour. We have to sift it because besan has a tendency to form soft lumps. We'll sift it directly into the kadai or wok in which we'll be making the burfi. To make our Besan Burfi even tastier, we'll be adding some dry fruits to it. Here's a quarter cup of a mix of cashew nuts, almonds and pistachios that I've toasted lightly with around 1 teaspoon of pure ghee. I'll now lightly crush these with a pestle and mortar and be back. Here's our mix of coarsely crushed dry fruits. Now to make Besan Burfi, halwais or mithaiwalas usually add pure ghee that has the same weight as that of the besan. But since we are making a healthy burfi without compromising its taste of course, we'll use a mix of pure ghee and refined oil like some halwais do. But the combined weight of these two will be less than the weight of the besan. We'll add 110 grams, that's half a cup of pure ghee, and 55 grams or a quarter cup of refined oil to the besan, which means our burfi will have a lower total fat content and a lower content of saturated fat as well. And yes, the oil will also help keep the burfi soft. I'll now turn on the heat and mix everything and roast the besan carefully on medium-low heat. The besan has to be roasted slowly, patiently and evenly without burning it or letting it brown too much. If the burfi has to have a more attractive color, the original color of the besan shouldn't change too much. After around 5 minutes, the texture of the besan has changed somewhat. It appears a little drier. We'll continue stirring and roasting the besan on medium-low heat. After another 7 to 8 minutes, the besan is now looser and the lovely aroma of roasted besan is wafting across my kitchen. The besan is also beginning to release some oil or ghee. This is a sign that it has been roasted well and no longer has a raw taste. Halwais add some yellow and orange-red food color to the burfi mix to cover up the brownish tinge it acquires on being roasted and give it a more appealing color. But instead of adding food color, here's what I'm going to do. This is a quarter teaspoon measure and I'm going to add around 1/8 of a teaspoon of turmeric powder to the roasted besan to deepen its yellow color. And we don't have to worry about the taste of the turmeric powder. That's because its quantity is too minute to affect the taste of the Besan Burfi. We'll roast the besan for an additional minute or so till it just starts changing color. I have roasted the besan for around 17 to 18 minutes and it's now done. I'll turn off the heat but continue to stir the besan for another minute or 2. That's because even though the stove has been turned off, the kadai is still so hot that the besan could burn if we don't keep stirring it for some time. We'll now set this aside and start preparing the sugar syrup. In this vessel, I have half a cup of water. To it, I'll add around 250 grams, that's 1 cup plus 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Now the weight of sugar in the commercially available Besan Burfi is usually around double that of the besan, which means that instead of adding around 400 grams of sugar, we are adding just 250 grams. This quantity is enough to give our Besan Burfi the perfect level of sweetness. The heat is on medium. But now that the sugar solution has started boiling, I'll reduce it to low. The sugar solution needs to be boiled till it gets to the single strand consistency. But let me show you the consistency at this early point. The solution feels only slightly sticky. I'll now add in 1 teaspoon of ground cardamom. After 5 minutes, the syrup has thickened slightly, so let's turn off the heat and check its consistency again. It's just beginning to form a single string or strand, and the strand keeps breaking. That's exactly how it should be. The syrup is now of the right consistency. It shouldn't be thicker than this or heated till it forms a distinct single strand. We'll now gradually add the hot sugar syrup to the roasted besan. As you can see, the syrup flows easily and is not very thick. If you thicken the syrup too much, the Besan Burfi will set very quickly and be too hard and dry and crumbly. On the other hand, if the syrup is thin enough, the burfi will be nice and soft. Notice the consistency of the mix at this stage. It is on the thinner side. We'll now add in the crushed nuts and continue stirring the mixture for around 2 to 3 minutes till it begins to thicken. Stirring the mixture well at this point will give the burfi a lovely texture. Okay, it's now ready to be poured into my baking tray, which I've already greased with oil. Notice how the burfi mixture comes away smoothly from the walls of the kadai. Let's spread the mix and level the top. And then tap it on the work surface a few times to get rid of any trapped air. And while it's still hot and soft, let's sprinkle around 1 tablespoon of sliced nuts on it. We'll now let the burfi slab cool for around 20 to 30 minutes till it just begins to set. Depending on the thickness of your sugar syrup, the burfi could take a little less or a little more time to begin to set. After almost half an hour, my burfi mix is somewhat set and is firm to the touch. At this stage, we'll cut the burfi slab into squares. If you wait longer than this to cut the burfi, you won't get clean cuts. And if you want the cut pieces to have a uniform size, then first make markings on the slab with a measuring scale or ruler. Once the burfi pieces cool completely, they can be stored in an airtight container. Let me show you the texture of the burfi. It's deliciously soft. Now a quick recap of my tips. Roast the besan slowly and evenly on medium-low heat. Roast the besan till it becomes aromatic, begins to release oil or ghee, and just starts changing color. Don't let it get too brown. Don't thicken the sugar syrup too much or heat it till it forms a distinct single strand. If the sugar syrup is slightly thinner than it should be, the burfi will just take a little longer to set. But if it is too thick, the burfi will be dry and crumbly. In that case, transfer the crumbled burfi to the kadai again, add a tablespoon of ghee and 2 to 3 tablespoons of boiling hot water, or a little more if necessary, and heat and stir the mixture again on low heat till it acquires a pouring consistency. As you've just seen, today's tasty, melt-in-the-mouth Besan Burfi recipe is a quick one And if you follow all the tips I've given you, an easy one too. Do give my recipe a shot and don't forget to let me know how your barfi turns out. Finally, a gentle reminder to subscribe for more of such recipes with detailed tips. Until we meet again, happy cooking!